Hello and welcome to Court Vision. Hello, everyone. It's our holiday special. Woo! You got Kilroy, you got Mongo, you got Tommy, and you got Kevin. We're here. We may or may not have two other special guests coming throughout this episode. We don't even know personally. That's why I said it how I said it. But first, happy holidays, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. This is the Monday before Christmas that we're recording this. I don't know when I'm going to post this. Maybe Christmas Day, maybe not. Who knows? But thank you all so much. Happy Christmas, happy Kwanzaa, happy Hanukkah, and any other holidays that I forgot, because there definitely is at least one.
And frankly, Happy New Year, because we may not record between now.
Oh, yeah, no, we're definitely not. Happy New Year, too.
Yeah, yep, agreed.
So again, thank you all so much for joining us. So we got, like I said, we got Tommy, we got Mongo, we got Kevin, and then we got good old Kilroy. So let's kick things off with our surprises so far this season.
Who gets to start?
We'll have you start, Kevin.
I would say the Orlando Magic. My surprise, because they're doing very well despite all, and they continue to play very well despite injuries. You know, you have two different obliques hit Banchero and Franz Wagner. You have Mo Wagner go down for the season with an ACL, but a couple nights ago they came back against everyone's favorite enemy, the Heat. They were down like 15 or so in the fourth quarter, and they ended up winning that game outright. So that was a really impressive win. I'm really impressed with how high the Magic are in the standings. I think that they were a candidate for some people to fire Jamal Mosley as the first coach fired, but that is not in play anymore unless he does something absolutely stupid, because they're in a good spot. And I actually do think they have a chance to make some decent noise in the playoffs should things continue on the trajectory that they are at this point. Even with the injuries, I think they'll have a chance to make some noise, and they can win a round easily if they get paired with the right matchup.
Fair enough.
Defense is playing well, and they're hitting everybody.
That's fair. That's fair. Tommy, what is your biggest surprise so far for the season?
Well, I mean, I'm going to do two, because I want to do one real quick and say that I'm even though this was in my predictions earlier this year, I'm actually kind of surprised Stephon Castle is currently, leading the race for Rookie of the Year, and I hope he keeps it up. It's genuinely surprising to see, especially coming off of an already Rookie of the Year Spurs season. So for Wemby, but the real surprise for me is, and you guys are gonna laugh because of how high I've been on them in the past years, but the Sacramento Kings. These guys need to get
your
their
team
together.
Yeah,
what
Tommy's
is going on
team.
with the Sacramento Kings?
What is going on with Sacramento Kings is Mongo's favorite thing to say about Mike Brown.
Listen, I don't get a whole lot of these things right, but and I'll be honest, I got lucky, because when you did the math, either Sacramento or Houston was going to be in trouble. When you looked at kind of how I thought it was going to fall, I thought there were too many good teams in the West. Someone was going to have to hit the panic button. I went with Sacramento, but I easily could have gone with Houston. So my surprise belongs to them. I had them in that 7-12 tier. Hey, 19-9 is a great start. And, Dylan Brooks is putting up nice stats despite, being a panic, button feature, Draymond Green-esque concern at any given moment. We're all contributing there, so I'll give them credit. Tommy, to what you said, shout out Kevin. You and I had Bub Carrington being a contributor early on. We got to see that be true. And Yves Missi was my other sneaky rookie of the year. He's been awesome this year. He's a double-double machine. So we were pretty good on rookie of the year. I was pretty solid on first coach fired. I still feel really good about Mike Brown right now. I also just want to say to what you alluded to, Kevin, I can't put the Sixers or Hornets really as a surprise right now because it's hard to look at a team getting demolished by injuries. The Pelicans are having some historic injury problems.
Elfrid Payton had to play.
Elfrid Payton played his 499th game in 2022. He played his 500th game this season. That's how bad it got. They had to go find a guy who'd been on the shelf for 2 years. And then as always, I've jokingly said it before, but I stand by it. To me, I'd cast my vote. To me, there are 9 tolerable teams in the East, 6 atrocious teams. I'd cast a coach of the year vote for whoever manages to make the play-in the East from those god-awful teams. I think the Sixers end up catching one of them, but shout out to the Bulls and Pistons for actually being in the top 10 in the East, at the quarter turn. Credit where credit's due. I mean, particularly the Bulls, because I love the Pistons. I said it's only a matter of the time before the Pistons get to 36 wins one year and accidentally get wiped out as the 10 seed. I have the Bulls finishing 14th in the East. So for them to be the other team up there in the discussion of who's going to steal that 10, hey, credit where credit's due, guys. Listen, I still think they're going to fall off the planet. I still don't think they're a good team, but I definitely I thought Charlotte, Toronto, Atlanta, the Nets, any of those teams could sneak in before Chicago did. So bravo to Chicago for at least being competitive at the quarter turn.
Yeah. My surprise is a surprise that surprised me today when I just looked at the standings. The Lakers currently lead the Pacific by half a game. That is surprising me. This team went from really high. There's been so many highs and lows already in the season for the Lakers, and it's 28 games in? It's crazy how many highs and lows there are. I think JJ is doing a surprisingly good job navigating the media based off the fact that he's just in a bad spot, right? Like there was nothing he could do this year other than the Lakers, starting off undefeated for like the first 11 games that people would have felt anything but he's just a puppet for LeBron, right? Like that's pretty much the only thing. Even if they went undefeated, there's nothing he really could have done, right? So I feel he's been handling it very well. Obviously, he's a former player, so he does at least have that as an advantage in the sense that he's a recent player, right? He only played 2 years ago.
I'll double check that right now.
He's recently retired. He also had some time in the media, so he would know the players. He would also know the media, and in that sense, one of the things they've been skeptical to do there. They've gone with they've really leaned into this idea that LeBron's coach is the biggest joke occupation on the planet, right? Because you just live and die by when LeBron wants to get rid of you. And I appreciate that. I think it's been the right move more often than not. 2021, by the way, for JJ Redick. Thank you, Kev. But I like this idea of let's Hollywood up this position, right? Let's have somebody who can actually protect LeBron a little bit and protect Los Angeles, right? The same way you want a tough guy in New York, you want a Hollywood guy in Los Angeles. That makes sense. I mean, it's inherent. If you don't believe that makes sense, I dare you to tell me why. Why should the Hollywood, why should the LA guys not have a certain flair of Hollywood to them? I like that. I like what they've done here, and I think Redick's doing a good job. I'm with you on that. Now, with that being said, Kevin, I know you're a big technicalities guy. Before we get angry comments in the in the section below there, we get how it works. We know that leading the Pacific doesn't mean a whole lot. That doesn't mean they're top 3. They're number 6 in the West. I mean, they're barely hanging on to a play-in, to avoiding the play-in. But still, I'm with you. In a division with Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Sabonis, you'd think it shouldn't be that easy. But for them to be ahead of all those guys, hey, that's again, as always. Sorry, Kev, that's bravo to LeBron, man. He's navigating a good team there. Dalton Connect has been a nice add there. They've done a good job of deciding kind of when Anthony Davis does and doesn't play, LeBron doesn't play, and good work. Bronny James coming back up, by the way. Fun times for everybody.
Yeah, that's a decision. But yeah, I mean, let's take a quick look at the Pacific before we move into other things. So, like I said, you have the Lakers have a half game lead. They're 16-12. You have Golden State right behind them at 15-12. So again, only a half game back. Also, half game back is the Clippers at 16-13. Then you got the Phoenix Suns at 14-13, and Sacramento's at 13-17. So no one's really out of the division, right? Like
Right.
Sacramento can still easily win this division, right? They're only 4 games back of first place. But like Mongo did say, someone is going to have to miss out from this loaded West, right? So it is most likely going to be one of these. I mean, it's definitely going to be one of these teams, right? Like, how often can 5 teams even make it from one division? Probably, but I doubt this is going to be the division where that would happen.
Well, let's real quick. Sorry to cut you off, but I mean, a quick exercise here. We knew the Blazers and Jazz weren't particularly trying this year, and the Pelicans just can't stay out of their own way, injury bug wise. Listen, somebody tell me if I'm telling lies here, but I don't believe in the Clippers. They've been treading water now. They're 5-5 in their last 10. They got off to a nice start, but the schedule is going to get tougher. Injuries are bound to happen. I don't particularly believe in them. So right now we're back to where we started this season with 11 teams fighting for 10 spots. I originally, like I said, I thought that 11th team was going to be the Kings or the Rockets. It's hard to start 19-9 and not make the playoffs. So, I mean, I'm left saying the Kings are going to be bounced. I think the Clippers fall out and the Kings get bounced. But that's, again, I think that's really the debate you can have. Who's going to be that odd team out? But the Rockets definitely had a lot of question marks because of their youth. The Grizzlies are in second in the West, had a lot of questions about Ja Morant. I mean, for the Kings, they're almost as unlucky that the other question mark teams are doing as good as they are as it is that they were doing as bad as they are. I mean, listen, Dallas isn't dropping out. I'm sorry, they're not. LeBron will find a way to get at least into the play, and he will. So who am I believing? Do I think the Kings are going to knock out Steph Curry? No way. I don't. He'll find a way. That team will find a way. The teams that you can be skeptical of just aren't showing signs of cracking yet. Minnesota's got way more talent than the Kings, way too much talent. I think if there's a week to play and the Wolves and Kings are tied, I'm going to lean towards trusting the Wolves more. So right now, I think the Kings are in trouble of finishing 11th, and that's why, like I said, you can imagine a world where they could hit the panic button early because they could live in that 11 spot for a while.
And they are, right? They're at least entertaining, right? The concept. So two things here. Golden State is looking at potentially making a trade. I think they pretty much ruled out doing the trade for I forget the guy who's for someone.
Great commentary.
No, I'm drawing a blank. Who were we just talking about in our group chats that was up for potentially being traded?
I don't remember. I think they're
De'Aaron Fox,
not De'Aaron Fox. There was another player,
Jimmy Butler.
Yes, Jimmy Butler. Thank you.
Yes,
they're out on the Jimmy Butler most likely. I do think that also you are hearing that the Kings are now entertaining the concept of trading Fox, which does make sense, right? They seem to be very far apart on a contract extension.
Money.
They're not necessarily money. Of course, it's always about money. They're not certain there's a future for him with them. He doesn't necessarily want to be there. And it would make sense for the Kings to move him so that they can at least get something out of it. Golden State's not getting him, right? Because they're not going. There's no way they're going to do an in division trade. Just like the Lakers aren't getting him, it would have to be something crazy. Do you even think? I don't even know if there was a Western team that would be
San Antonio.
No, not that. Do you really?
No, I
you
don't
want
know. Like, I'm going off of actual rumors. Like,
do you think that they would that Sacramento? Well, I guess Sacramento would do that. I don't know. I could see the East. I could see a team in the East. I could see Miami going after him, right, as a way to try to not have to worry about Jimmy Butler, right, by pairing Jimmy Butler with Fox.
I think Miami's trying to actively shop Jimmy Butler because they're tired of his side quests during the regular season.
I don't know about that. I think that they're more concerned about the ability to retain him long term, more so.
Hey, listen, I'm going to say a couple things here. Tommy, I'm going to come to you in a minute. But so first of all, just to finish up the conversation we were on, to just generalize that,
Yeah.
the Warriors, by all rumors, seem ready to buy. The Kings seem, by all accounts,
Yeah.
ready to sell. So if you're looking at those top four in the Pacific and you're looking at LeBron, KD, a Steph team ready to buy, or a Kings team ready to sell, who's the odd man out? That's a no-brainer, guys. I'm sorry. That's a pretty obvious no-brainer. But I have heard some rumors, and we'll talk about that Spurs rumor in a moment. But the other question is, does Fox go to a team that might not necessarily be ready yet? But if you're going to give him the max contract, you're going to have him for 5, 6, 7 years anyway. Does he go to a team that just doesn't have an identity? Do the Nets cash in their picks for him? Do the Bulls find a way to get him? Do one of these lower teams in the East that know they don't have to do a whole lot to at least get to six, with the Sixers getting older, with the Hawks looking like they're ready to blow it up every single year, you only really need one power player in the East to be one of these bottom teams and suddenly jump to somewhere between 6 through 8. And then you have a star that can lure other players to come. So when I think of Fox, I think of him going to one of those, 8 to 14 teams.
Yeah, I mean, the Nets and Bulls would be very interesting.
Tommy, my question to you is, would you even humor the idea of a trade if they called and asked for Castle in some way?
See, that's tough. I was thinking maybe more in the lines of Vassell or Keldon.
Well, let's go question by question. You moving Keldon?
I would move Keldon, yeah.
You moving Vassell?
Depends on if it's just Fox, maybe not. That's a little tougher. But I mean, for Fox, I would probably lean yes, honestly.
You moving Castle?
Stephon Castle, no.
You moving Zach Collins?
Yes.
Good answer.
I would possibly.
Good answer.
If I were to do this, it would definitely be a package of Johnson, Collins, and maybe a pick or two.
Listen,
you might need a pick swap as well. I'm not sure.
Yes.
There's something weird about the NBA trades where sometimes they do pick swaps as well as part of the trades.
And honestly, if I'm the Kings, I'm in on a package around Keldon and some picks. Zach Collins, a nice add there too, because we know. I mean, I said it originally that Harrison Barnes loss in the offseason was going to hurt the Kings way more than anyone gave them credit for. A lot of these teams that are really young and made a surprising jump, if you don't have a veteran there, it can be tough. And so, a guy like Zach Collins, we generally mock him around here. But that can be a nice piece of the puzzle for sure. But yeah, if I'm the Kings, I'm definitely not asking about Castle, but I'd be happy with a pick and, with some draft collateral and Keldon Johnson coming back. You know me, I think Keldon Johnson's criminally underrated in this league.
Now, do you think that Sacramento does like a crazy trade and takes a chance with like New Orleans and gets Zion?
You had everybody drinks. Someone brought up Zion Williamson.
or Brandon Ingram.
I think Fox and Ingram solves both teams' problems. I think that's a little throw mama from the train action right there, where they can both help each other out pretty nicely. However, you got to ask the question, and we don't know the answer because we're not them. If neither team really particularly wants to pay either of those guys, do they want to pay the other guy's guy? Because if it's just a matter of they would be rentals, well, what a dumb trade. But if for whatever reason Sacramento values Ingram over Fox and the Pelicans value Fox over Ingram, then yeah, no, I think that's a great trade. Listen, Kevin, you'll be proud of me for this one. I see no reason anyone on earth would trade for Zion Williamson at this point. I mean, in a world where the dude by law eventually has to become a free agent, and in a world where the dude has a floor that he literally fell through, I don't know why you wouldn't at least just wait for me to become a free agent.
By the way, the Zion contract, he could become a free agent sooner than you think, because there are various games played clauses within his contract. While they could be restored, if he doesn't meet his games played clauses, his contract could be voided sooner than the original timeline that it's on. He could be a free agent as soon as the end of the 2025 season. Let's put it that way.
I mean, he definitely would want that, right? He's been wanting out of New Orleans. and I said this back when he signed it, he should have just done a 1-year deal so that he could wiggle his way out, because no team was going to, no one.
Wiggle or shake the floor.
Roll, kind of fall down the stairs and hurt his ankle, but make his way out.
He's gonna make his way out like that boulder in Indiana Jones.
So call me crazy here, but if they could get him at a cheap price, I think the Nets make sense.
Yeah. I'll give you that. Because of the same argument I just made for Fox, any team looking for a night that does not have a face of the franchise, I get that Zach LaVine is technically the face of the Bulls franchise, but he's really not. A team like the Bulls would make sense. A team like the Blazers would make sense. Any team that does not have easy access to star talent would behoove them to look in on that, knowing, to what Kevin just alluded to, the contract might not be as lofty as you think. Now, the reason the Nets specifically concern me is because Zion has really taken on the Ben Simmons path of most resistance with his ability to stay healthy. And so if you're a net management person, you're saying we've already made this fan base suffer through the adventure that was Ben Simmons. There are, in a lot of ways, way too many comparisons between Simmons and Williamson, where just from a marketing standpoint, you have to be careful about that. But if I'm Charlotte, if I'm Chicago, if I'm Toronto, if I'm Portland, pick any of your favorite really garbage teams that don't. I mean, Charlotte's even more interesting because you compare them with Ball. But the other teams, Washington, right? Pick your favorite team that has no face of the franchise. See if you can get them on the cheap. See if you can convince them to stay. And, then you have a team that, then you have a guy you can at least pretend you're building around, right? And if it doesn't work out, well, you're no real worse off for wear. The other problem with all those teams, though, is if they give up a first, they're probably giving up, a top 5 pick. Whereas if like a contender tries to invest in him, on sort of a kind of like when Bill Walton came off the Celtic bench, try and just get a guy who's going to just contribute one time, then if you're giving up a first, you're giving up a pick 23, pick 25, pick 30 even, that sort of thing. So, I mean, Zion inherently is going to be more expensive to a bad team because any pick you attach to him would be, a higher pick. Unless, and again, I'm not going to, Kevin, feel free to investigate all you want on this, but unless there's a team like, if Toronto happens to own a Milwaukee Bucks future first or something, trading that first would make a lot of sense for everybody involved. But without going down that roller coaster, you do just have to be careful because if I'm the Nets, am I willing to trade away a 2025 first, to get a guy who's not going to help me this year? I don't know. The Nets, by the way, I think have 4 first-rounders this year, at least 3 first-rounders. So if any team can mess around with a first that doesn't hurt them that much, it is the Nets.
All right, let's move on to our wish list. Santa's wish list. Ho, 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 Mongo Santa. This segment is our wishes for our teams. Mongo, you're obviously a Knicks fan, but you don't have to pick the Knicks. I'm definitely picking the Knicks. I think Kevin will. And Tommy, obviously, you're going to pick the Spurs. So, I want to start first. My wish for the Knicks is for Mitchell Robinson to actually come back healthy and be available for them in the playoffs. I think that will be huge for the Knicks to have him ready and healthy for the playoffs. I would love for him to come back. He's at this point, I think it's now end of January is projected. Come back into February. Hopefully he can actually, I think it's more important at this point to keep him ready and healthy for the playoffs. So if it means holding him out until mid-February to March, and as long as he keeps him getting healthier, I'd rather the Knicks do that. Yes, they definitely miss him defensively, but I'd rather have that defense as a nice spice to this team for the playoff push. That's my wish for the Knicks, is to not rush back Mitchell Robinson and to have him ready. I don't think that they're going to be able to get a trade with him to get a someone of an equal caliber, right? Like, you're not going to get another defensive center like him for him, right? Like you would have to give up too much. At that point, you just keep him, right? His contract's reasonable. So I wouldn't even entertain it at this point. I had thoughts earlier in this year, but that was back when I thought he was going to be back end of December. Now they're talking mid-January to February to even potentially later. So again, Knicks at this point, you should just keep him, get him healthy, make sure he's ready for your playoff push because that's really more important to me. That's what's most important. You have a very good team. This is a good team, and that's what I think. Let's go to Tommy. Or actually, sorry, all right, hold on. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
I have some thoughts because my wish list is centered around Robinson, but not quite in the same vein. In the sense that I have inside information that Robinson's injury is significantly worse than we all thought it was, and that he may never regain his form. So I believe that my wish inside information, yes. So my wish is similar to yours, but my wish is more of the Knicks have a solution to the Mitchell Robinson situation. Whether he comes back fully healthy, which is our number one hope, or if they determine that he can't come back fully healthy, etc., that they address. I do think there is still a need for a backup center if Mitchell Robinson can't come back or he's ineffective, etc. I did hear rumors that there is a possibility that the Knicks could try to trade Robinson for one of the Dallas centers. I believe his name is Gafford, but I don't know how the contracts would work out, and I'm sure that a pick or two would have, at the minimum, would have to be involved. But that's my general wish, is that the Mitchell Robinson saga have a resolution so that come playoff time, we'll be able to insert Robinson and or the Robinson replacement at least a few games before the playoffs so that he's not starting the playoffs cold and get the defense all gelling. I do agree with the idea of the defense gelling in time for the playoffs, but I do believe that you're going to need a few regular season games, maybe like 10 or 15, let's say, at the minimum, to like get used to all the defensive rotation adjustments that you got to make, incorporating either Robinson back into the fold or the Robinson replacement into the mix.
Yeah, I'm going to ask to go last because my Christmas wish has nothing to do with. I'm going as far off the grid as you can go. But while we're on the topic, if I did make my wish for the Knicks, I'll take year two and I'll put it together, which is they just need to get bigger. They need to figure out one more big in this rotation. Kevin, you can look this up. Daniel Gafford is one of those guys who feels like he's been around for 40 years and is somehow like 25, 26 years old. So if you're investing in him, you're probably looking more at a guy who is hopefully a part of the future. Now, with that being said, he was like an early second rounder, pick 33, 34, something like that, maybe in 31. So I mean, he's a household name. Hey, 26, I got it right. Thank you, Kevin. He's a household name. I believe Arkansas University, pedigree coming out. So I would love to go in on a guy like that. They originally got him in the PJ Washington trade, so they gave up assets to get him. He came over at the same time as PJ Washington when they were all in trying to buy. They were giving up assets to get him. They'd want assets back. We all know Dallas and New York love making trades together. So I like that name. Kevin, I'm glad that made me happier than any nonsense I'm going to bring up with mine at the end here. But I do think ultimately, if I'm the Knicks, listen, the Knicks are in a great position because, again, listen, I know I sound like a curmudgeon sometimes when I talk about how this is a superstars league. And so at the end of the day, there's only 5 or 6 teams that can really win. But if I'm the Knicks, I'm still on pace to finish somewhere between 2 and 4 in this division. And or in this conference, excuse me, am I really afraid of Orlando, especially with all their injuries? No, not really. No. Even Cleveland, I mean, listen, they got off to the hot start, but after that, something like 9-5.
I'm not worried about the Cavaliers.
Am I afraid of them? No. Even if the Sixers manage to make it and I run into them, do I just wait until Embiid trips over something? Yeah, I'm not really. I'm only afraid of Boston and literally one dude who plays for Milwaukee. So I mean, you're just asking yourself.
One really good guy, though.
Right? I mean, I'm not underselling Boston or Milwaukee. And even I picked the Sixers. I like that team, but at the same time, I'm looking at those teams and going, none of those teams have a Steph Curry where. If they get hot, it's over. They're aggressive. They're going to be highly physical, highly contested, contests against Milwaukee, Philadelphia, Boston, really the only 3 teams I fear in the East. And, I want more size. I do. No matter what, I want it to be competitive. I want to be physical. I want to win that match.
I think there is one other team the Knicks should be fearful of in the playoffs, and that's the Hawks. Because for some reason, Trae Young just goes off somehow, and they just managed to win somehow. So that's the one team I'm scared of, the Hawks, more than I'm scared of the Bucks or the Celtics, because you expect the Bucks and the Celtics to give the Knicks a tough fight, but for some reason the Hawks, they always give the Knicks trouble recently.
And that's what I was kind of just alluding to. If Trae Young starts making 43-foot bombs, you trade for a brick wall. It doesn't matter. You can't stop that. But you can actually you could get better to protect yourself against those other teams. So protect yourself the best way you can. Get a little more aggressive. Get a little more size for those teams, especially a team like Boston, where at all times they have 5 competent guys on the field, or on the court. So you need to be ready to make those transitions to protect that rim if somebody, if there's a blown coverage or something. And, the Sixers, we know when Embiid's in there, he likes to be physical. It's why he gets hurt all the time. I'd want to be as tough as I can be, especially because, listen, I'm not afraid of the Pacers. I'm not afraid of the Cavs. But they're not afraid to grind it out. If no matter what, you're going to come into the second round exhausted, especially if you play Cleveland, where everyone on that team seems to have a wingspan of 43 feet. Listen, it's going to be a grind. You want toughness.
Yeah,
I concur. Yeah, it's
Tommy.
Go ahead, Tommy.
You guys are thinking way too long term. I have one Christmas wish from Santa this year.
You want to be the Knicks on Christmas, don't you?
I want Victor Wembanyama and the San Antonio Spurs, when they take the court at Madison Square Garden against your New York Knicks, to get a win. Yeah.
And we want the others
I didn't realize
result.
we were
Thank you
wrestling.
very much.
That was
Did you know
great,
there was a
Tommy.
wrestling match happening there, Mongo?
What was that, Kilroy?
Did you know there was a wrestling match happening?
No, but if it's prime time at Madison Square Garden, in the last 15 years, statistically, it's more likely to be a wrestling match than to be a Knick game. So he's not wrong in that sense. But hey, listen, we got super protected here by Wemby coming in, because probably the Knicks are not a lock to make Christmas Day. But listen, we're excited to have it. We're excited to see Wemby come in. We know what
noon start.
With 12 noon. Thank you, Kevin. We know what superstars tend to do when they play in Madison Square Garden in meaningful moments. Look for Wemby to have one of his signature, 40-10, 6-6 games.
I can't wait for Josh Hart to defend him.
It should be fun to see what they do with their size. Listen, that's what makes the NBA so much fun, though, because like in the NFL, listen, we have a couple NFL games this year, and if you lose that game, it could be a magical game. It could be fun to watch. It could knock you out of the playoffs. It could literally ruin your whole year. In the NBA, if you're a Knicks fan, you can appreciate Wemby for what he is. You can appreciate getting that first look at Castle. You can appreciate seeing those young guys. You can appreciate getting to only see Popovich come in, maybe 2-3 more times max. And you can get absolutely shat on. We can lose by 70. Who cares? It's one loss. We keep on rolling. It's part of what makes the NBA.
It's the other conference. I'm not worried about that.
Right. And even better, right? They can't even pass us in the standings for the playoffs. So listen, I still think the Knicks have as good a shot as anyone in that game. I mean, I think it's a coin flip. But I'm more as a Knicks fan, and honestly, Knicks fans that are out there watching, feel free to trash me for this. I'm more excited to see Wemby on Christmas Day than I am to see what the Knicks do and if the Knicks can win. To me, that's a treat. I'm really looking forward to seeing Wemby on Christmas Day. I'm with you, Tom.
Now one more
I'm not
wish.
sure if I'm watching the game. I don't know what time the Ravens game is, but it's also on Christmas.
Kevin, you got us?
Wish for me.
I'll look.
It is at 4:30. No, I can watch both.
You can get both. You can get both of those in.
So one more wish from me. Atlanta Hawks.
Sorry, only one
keep
per
doing
person. No, I'm kidding.
Keep doing what you're doing.
I still have one left.
Go ahead,
Keep
Tommy.
keep doing what you're doing, Atlanta Hawks, because that DeJounte Murray trade is looking better and better.
Somehow Tommy knew. Tommy knew all along what this team was going to do. He somehow was on this Hawk team long before they did anything. It blew up, it blew back, and it somehow worked in Tommy's favor. Good call, Tommy.
Yeah, it's still paying back dividends.
And even the Kings are also giving him dividends.
Hey, listen, shout out to I will give the Hawks this. So, I mean, granted, a little of it was accidental luck, but hey, DeAndre Hunter's got to be in the discussion for Sixth Man of the Year. I mean, putting him on that second unit and letting him cook back there, remember when he came, he's a Virginia product. And what did we know about all those Virginia guys who came out? They were smart, selfless basketball players, right? They were defense minded first. They had their fair share of adversity with losing to the 16 seed that year. He's not necessarily going to be a diva about things. And so with a team that seems to have a lot of, they have Trae Young and they have about 10 guys who are good but not great. Somebody willing, it's like what we saw with Russell Westbrook last year with the Clippers, somebody willing to say, I'm going to take a step back to make the team collectively better, sometimes does more, a lot of good. And in this case with the Hawks, it seems to have really helped, to have Hunter step back and say, I'll be the star of the second team. And good on him and good on the Hawks for finally figuring that out.
And Mago?
Yeah, I'm actually going to give my wish to the entire NBA. I'm going to kind of break the rules here. My wish to the NBA is that they recognize how close they are here without overthinking it. Because at the end of the day, this new All-Star format is one of the worst things I've ever seen. But it's way closer than they think they are. If you haven't heard, they're going to draft 24 All-Stars like they always do. They're then going to let Shaq, Chuck, and Kenny Smith split those 24 dudes up into teams of 8, and they're going to do a 4-team tournament to games of 40, where that 4th team is going to be the winner of the Rising Stars game.
It sounds pretty cool.
Okay.
So now,
there you go.
correct, right? There's a lot of good to take away from this. But now hear me out. One, by playing a game to anything, I get that 240 to 220 is dumb, but by playing a game to anything, you are admitting that you are putting out a product that people will eventually get tired of. As soon as you are setting a score limit, it's like if Hollywood made a rule that movies can't be longer than 80 minutes. You are admitting that fans will get tired of your product at a certain point. That is terrible marketing at its finest. Marketing students out there, please learn from this. This is a god-awful idea in that sense. Second of all, those poor young kids, that 4th team, which I forget who it's going to be. It's some WNBA player. I forget who. It's a former WNBA legend. But whoever wins the Rising Stars is going to be coached by them. It's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. They're kids. They're supposed to lose by 1 billion. So if they lose, well, you saw it coming a mile away. If they win, well, the kids tried. The pros didn't because it's the All-Star game and nobody tries. It's a no-win situation. But this idea of Kenny, Chuck, and Shaq getting together and being brutally honest about 24 NBA players is hysterical. Yep. So here's what you do. It's very small change, but it's very simple. You have those 3 guys and a celebrity get together and you rig it. The NBA talks to that celebrity about who his players are going to be, but you have those 3 guys pick the 24 and you let that celebrity surprise announce 8 other NBA players, and he's not going to announce.
It'll be like Snoop Dogg or something.
Right, you'll have Snoop, or I see Kevin Hart being the logical choice as that 4th coach the first year. But guys like that, guys who would be hysterical with those 3 guys, you pick 4 teams, and then I would even have those 4 just merge into 2 and play one All-Star game. But if not, you have the semifinals on Friday in an actual game. Shorten the quarters if you want. Go to 8-minute quarters, but let it go to 300. Who cares? At least you're admitting that it is what it is. It's an offensive display. But get rid of the point limit. Get rid of the fourth team that literally is just damned by virtue of being there. You're so close, NBA. My wish for you is that you get rid of those few obvious pratfalls, because I like the idea that you need to change something. I like that you respect that your product is broken. But what you have done here is you have set yourself up for some major, major problems with your new format.
And force Chuck and Shaq to be on the same team.
Shaq and Chuck versus Kenny Smith and a celebrity in a 16-on-16 game would be one of the funniest things you could imagine.
Right?
Yep.
Listen, they did the framework. I just took their pieces and cleaned it up. You're close, NBA, but you are somehow so close and yet so far, because this is a disaster coming up. Because either all you're going to see on Twitter when the youngins win is, oh, look at that, they tried and the Stars didn't. Right? That's all. That's you know where this is going.
That's fair. That's fair. Anything else anyone wants to end before we wrap this up?
Hey, happy holidays, everybody.
Thank you all so much for watching. Remember, like, share, subscribe, comment down below about your wish list for your team. And again, happy holidays from your family here at Court Vision.
And Happy New Year.
Thanks for watching the Court Vision Holiday Special, brought to you by New Roads Media. And happy holidays.